Wait, am I sharing? I am. I have a, there it is. The first thing we're going to do is I've got to read this statement here. Pursuant to Executive Order N2920, excuse me, N-29-20, dated on March 17th, 2020, and signed by Governor Gavin Newsom, we are modifying the way the public will participate in academic Senate meetings during the fall 2020 semester. As part of its response to the ongoing coronavirus outbreak, the Academic Senate provides members of the general public the opportunity to make comment on agenda items or items not on the agenda. Public comment can be submitted by email to me, and submissions will be read aloud in their entirety at the public meeting. Such submissions must be received prior to the start of the meeting. Guidelines for time and quantity of public comment remain in effect. Before we actually get into any public comments, I would like to acknowledge that our college is located on the native land of the Hahamungna tribe of the Tongva Nation. Please take a moment, especially this week, folks, to remember those who came before us. This is also a time to remember the urgency of now and the Black Lives Matter movement call to action in response due to the countless BIPOC lives lost due to states' violence and police brutality. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge that members of the Armenian community are hurting as well, and that situation doesn't seem to be getting any better. With that, I received one email. Jennifer Feebig, if you're here, you can turn what you wanted to announce into a public comment if you want it at the beginning, or you can wait for it at the end.
Sure, I can just tell everybody now. Hi, everybody. If you'll remember at our last meeting, I sent an email out to all the faculty about 2 books that PCC has access to. One is From Equity Talk to Equity Walk. And if you're interested in hearing a talk on December 2nd, and I hope Matt will put all of it in the link or in the chat, there's going to be a talk on December 2nd with one of the authors, Tia Brown, I think is her name, with that. So just connecting the dots here. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. And what I will do is I'll go ahead and just shoot that email that you sent me out to all of the Senate representatives.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Are there any other public comments at the moment? Okay. Gina, would you do me a favor and type up a statement to the effect of if you're representing, or if you're a representative or an alternate representing your division, please click on the green yes in the participant window, and then periodically just drop it into the chat as people show up so that I don't have to keep verbalizing it. That would be great. Thank you. I actually need to request emergency additions to the agenda. And I need to find the AP numbers that I have here. I sent you all an email on Friday with a new AP, and it was AP 4235. I actually need a motion to add an agenda item I have 2 different numberings here. Let me get this, the agenda that you all have. I updated my agenda and then didn't put it in the packet. I need a motion to add agenda item M5F, which is going to be AP 30, what was it? I apologize, folks. I have too many things going on here. 4235 and 4220. So if, can I have somebody just volunteer?
Matt, I'll do it.
Is that Sheila?
So I would like to make a motion to add agenda item M5F to address APs 4235 and 4220.
Thank you, Sheila. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it, man.
Gina was first. So Sheila Rose moved, Gina Lopez seconded. And if there are no objections, we'll approve that by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Cool, that agenda item is added. That has been approved by unanimous consent. And now we are on to approval of 11 minutes. You got them in the packet. Does anybody have any amendments or corrections to make to the minutes? Cool. Then those minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Oh, hey, we're there. Now, folks, we have an honored guest with us today. I won't introduce her. I will let her introduce herself. She is our new Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, Dr. Carrie Bolin. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. Good afternoon, everyone. And again, thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself. A few of you have had an opportunity to share some spaces with last week, but for those that I haven't shared, my name is Carrie Bolin. I serve as the inaugural Chief Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer. You can say that I emphasize that because it's my claim to fame here. And I really do truly count it an honor and a privilege to be a part of this historic and outstanding college. Although my family has deep roots within the Pasadena community, having resided here since 1926, I am coming by way of Boston, Massachusetts, where I've had just an awesome opportunity to work at UMass Amherst and MIT before making that shift back to, I say back to, just because I feel like my roots are here, to Southern California, again, in my efforts to be closer to family. In doing so, I began my professional training at the University of Southern California in post-secondary administration, or within that program with an emphasis on student development. As a scholar practitioner, however, I would say my additional areas of research include everything from racial identity development to diversity, college student experiences, critical pedagogy, and learning. And so as such, I've had also a great opportunity to teach at Pepperdine University, at Mount St. Mary's University within their business and sociology departments. And currently I teach within the graduate program at USC's Rossier School of Education. And finally, my other full-time job is I am a mother of 3 girls, the youngest being 8 weeks old. So it's a busy, busy household over here. That's a little bit about me. In my role, you know, with this kind of serving as the first day of my second week with the college, or the snapshot version of the vision I have really for this role is one that serves as an equity partner within the university, or within the college rather. And saying that, I mean really to engage each stakeholder in the process of evaluating, creating, and really reimagining equity practices, policies, and systems at the college. And I think what I love the most about this work, and which is why I've you know, sort of been a part of it for X amount of years, is that you can't and you really should not do it in a vacuum. It takes coalition building, it takes partnerships of other institutional agents such as yourself. So I plan to use these kind of first few months to connect with as many shareholders as I identify, you know, my students, staff, and faculty colleagues as such as possible. You know, really in my effort to kind of gain a deeper understanding of the landscape of, you know, of the institution and the historic considerations around access and equity across communities. Again, be it student, staff, or faculty. So thank you in advance for answering my email and answering the call to engage in this work as we kind of work as a community to strengthen the college, is what I would identify as our sort of national and global footprint around leadership and advancing institutional diversity. So please consider me a resource and an ally. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity to share this space with you today.
Thank you so much. It's great to have you here. She didn't know I was going to do this. Does anybody have any questions, comments, anything that you want to address to our new Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer? Well, you're off the hook for now, but please feel free to oh, no, you're not. Lindsay.
I just want to say welcome. We're glad you're here. That's all. Not put her on the spot.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay.
Sure thing.
Good to be here.
Yeah. Can you give us your 5-step plan for fixing the world?
Do we have till 6?
Do we?
Only till 6?
Right. Okay. Well, with that, we will just say welcome. Folks, the reason, so I need to veer off for just a minute here. I'm putting in the chat to please raise the green yes in the participant window. I know that the green check marks disappear if you raise your hand, but then I would ask that you re-click in them. It's my way of knowing that we have quorum if we need to take any action. It's the only way I know that we can actually have a vote is that that number is above 20 or it's 20 or above. And right now it's at 18 and I can see a couple of people who haven't green check. Oh, look at that. Now we're at 24. Okay. With that, we're going to move on to the next agenda item. And this is quite of a different nature. And it is with a little bit of sadness that we are going to say goodbye to Dr. Terry Juni, our Vice President of Instruction. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody in this group. He'll be with us through the end of next month. This man is a consummate professional, and I have had the pleasure of working with him over the last, it's 2.5 years now. He's actually the administrator that I probably worked the closest with in my role here as a member of the executive committee of the Senate. His knowledge base has been broad and deep. He's always had a listening ear and has never been afraid to speak his mind. And with that, I'm going to turn it over so that he can say goodbye to us.
Thank you, Matt. I thought it was somewhat ironic that Carrie just said hi, and then I'm going to follow with a goodbye. It has been my great pleasure to work at Pasadena City College for the last 4.5 years as your Chief Instructional Officer. I have enjoyed very much working with the faculty outside of the Academic Senate, but obviously with the Academic Senate. And I've worked with 3 great Academic Senate presidents, Dr. Valerie Foster, Ms. Lenora Rogax, and Dr. Matt Hinnis. It has been a great pleasure working with all 3 of them. And in those efforts, we have accomplished many, many different things. And I'm not going to bore you with all of them, but I thought it would be important to point some of them out. We went from having 25 to 32 ADTs. And the reason I mentioned that is because for the 3rd year in a row, we are the #1 community college in the state in awarding associate degrees for transfer. And part of that is because we give our students so many options. In my time here, and I mentioned this probably mostly for Dr. Foster, we finally do officially have chairs. I think probably in my very first meeting with her, she asked, we need chairs. And so sorry, Valerie, that it took 4 years, but we do now have chairs. I think it's really important when we look at all the various partnerships that we develop, and I'm not going to name all of them, obviously, but we have so many now in dual enrollment. Probably really important is we have a partnership with Cal State LA where it's possible for Pasadena City College students to earn the associate degree for transfer in business administration and then complete the bachelor's degree from Cal State LA while taking classes from Cal State LA on the Pasadena City College campus. Not on the campus currently, but someday again. And then we also have a really good partnership with Loma Linda University where our associate degree nursing students, while they're earning their associate degree in nursing, they can at the same time be earning their bachelor's in nursing from Loma Linda. I think a really big accomplishment, and many of you were involved in this, is that we are only one of 2 of the 115 California community colleges that have fully implemented AB 705. We are looked at by the state in regards to best practices and how to do that. And we did that because of the efforts of our faculty in math, English, and ESL. And so I thank you all for that. Lastly, as I said, I don't want to mention everything, but lastly, the faculty, along with staff and administration, have amazed me in everything that you have done to continue offering the best community college education in the state during this pandemic. We have we went spring 100% online when the pandemic hit. We did summer 100% online. We're now currently at about 97% online. And believe me, I've been working with the deans to try to increase that number for winter and fall, but the virus is not cooperating. And so, but it is amazing that we still are able to serve our students and to provide for them a great education and many opportunities at completing their education goals. And it's because of your hard work at learning how to teach online instantaneously and do it well. And so, as I said, I could go on, but I just want to say it has been a great 4.5 years. It's 4.5 of a 35-year career in the community college system. And I have appreciated very much ending that here at Pasadena City College. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Juni. I think somebody wanted to say something. I saw somebody unmute a little while back. If anybody would like to chime in, go ahead. All right. Well, you will be missed, Dr. Juni. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
With that, we are going to move on to constituency reports. And President Whitworth, what you got?
Well, first I would like to congratulate Dr. Juni on his retirement. And I have enjoyed working with him, although we have disagreed many times. It was friendly disagreement and it was fun disagreement. I always felt challenged by the ideas he came up with, and I appreciated his professionalism. So moving on from there, the only thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is the new MOU that we have agreed to with the district that concerns teaching winter and spring. And I'll try to make this as simple as possible. For winter, if you are teaching now, you're probably qualified to teach in the winter, because all you need to be is fully DE certified or completed the self-paced training 1. And most of you, if you're teaching now, you've done that. So for winter, that's all you will need. For spring, the only additional training you would need, if you have only taken the self-paced training 1, you will have to complete self-paced training 2. If you are fully certified to teach online already, you don't have to do anything else, okay? And I believe Dr. Juni sent out an email today that training will be available November 30th, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Dr. Juni?
That's correct.
Yes. So, and we've been told that will be a much more nuts and bolts training, and that's what the faculty wanted. If you do take that training, you will be compensated $250, which basically breaks out to about the stipend rate of $50 an hour for the 5-hour additional training session. Also, if you do choose to take the fully certified online training, you can also be compensated $250. And also part of that MOU is some continued stipend money for distance learning coaches. So we will continue with that, and that way we have a little more support. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Looks like we do, Dr. Bernardo.
Pardon me?
Looks like we do, Dr. Bernardo.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out, because I haven't heard about it, if anybody has been compensated for the conversion of classes yet, or when that's going to come through.
That should be in our December paycheck.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, back to you, Mark.
And that's it. That's all I got.
All right, cool. Thank you very much then. Next up, we have adjunct faculty, Belleville Constantine.
Yes, hi everyone. I would also like to thank Dr. Juni for over the years working with us as adjunct faculty. He was always willing to listen and to be open to things that we had as goals and intentions. So I want to personally thank him for his time and work at PCC as well. I was able to attend the freshman 15 orientation last week, For those of you who do not know what it is, it's an initiative by the Outreach and Transfer Center to increase our African American student population. And as you know, it's part of the goal in our Senate. So I do want to encourage anyone who is not part of the initiative right now. There are some orientation sessions coming up this week. So we will try to send you some of that information. I'll try to see if I could put some of that information in the chat. But yes, as many faculty and staff as we can get on board. Obviously, this directly gives us a chance to speak to students, to ask them, why they're not currently enrolled, what can we do to support them, to provide resources, to get them back to PCC. We also had an informal meeting for achieving the Senate goals. And I just want to highlight a few things that came out of that meeting. There was a request for an organizational chart of PCC so that we can look at the ethnic diversity from the VPs to deans to faculty, staff, and students. So we will be trying to get that information from Human Resources pretty soon. We talked about recruitment and retention and how they need to be hand in hand. Not only are we trying to boost the amount of African-American students at PCC, we're also trying to make sure that they continue and get their associate's degree before transfer. So this is something that came up. We talked about simplifying the admissions process. This is an obstacle for some students when they're trying to enroll into courses. So again, we will be trying to work with the admissions team to see if what support they need for us to simplify the process. And finally, we talked about getting the word out to the community that once you fulfill or you fill out the FAFSA, the first year at PCC is extremely affordable. We feel like it's something that needs to be, I guess, put into the community a bit more. And we think that's another thing that would help us boost the African-American student population at PCC. The one last thing I'll leave you with, obviously we've been trying to get health insurance benefits. I know it's not part of the 10+1 within Senate, but I've been working with the FA and we have something planned in the near future. You could look out for something that should be a pretty strong statement in terms of getting these benefits for us as adjunct faculty. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And rather than dropping information into the chat, if you would just shoot it to me, I will send it out to the Senate representatives and alternates after the meeting. Okay. Classified Senate, Ernesto.
Thank you, Dr. Hennis. We only have to report is the Classified Senate went ahead and approved BP 3070, which is professional ethics of classified staff. This was pretty big and really supported by the Senate, our Senate, because it core line or it matches some of the language of the other two groups, management and faculty. So I hope that this will continue with our APs as well and our BP in shared governance. That is all I have to report.
Cool, thank you. And Associated Students, Christina.
Hi, everyone. I just hope that everyone's doing well these days. I just have a few reports. Majority of the board did attend the Board of Trustees meeting on November 10th, where we were joined by our student trustee, David Ramirez, in discussion. And we basically talked a lot about diversity, equity, inclusion at PCC, and we shared about transparency and accountability. We also held a really successful transfer panel with a lot of our current students and alumni. And as finals approaches, we are hoping to have a really successful final relaxation week to help out students. And also with that being said, I would like to echo again the fact to keep on reaching out to students, just because I know a lot of students are going through things right now, especially with transfer applications due in about 7 days. I know everyone has been stressed, and as finals approaches, everyone is definitely very tired. But yeah, that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Christina. Um, Management Association.
Yes, good afternoon. Management Association has been, like many associations, taking a look inward and at our own policies and procedures. And we've added our constitution, our handbook, and as well as our code of ethics. And like Ernesto just mentioned, on that last note, we wanted to have a more consistent approach. So we had a meeting, Professor Hennis, Ernesto, and myself, our 3 shared governance groups, to really try to look at the code of ethics as a more cohesive approach and have it, again, more aligned. So we've been working on that, and thankfully, had a progressive result. And lastly, just to wish everyone a safe break in the next few days. Again, use them to recharge. I know we got a tough road ahead with finals being remote and all that jazz. So let's do this. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. And then we move on to our officers' reports. For my president's report, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. I want to first let you know that I was given the distinct honor and privilege of sitting with Dr. Androgenis on the president's level interviews for the Vice President of Instruction hiring process. So that occurred last week, and the individual that the name of the individual, the successful candidate, will be announced probably after that name appears on the next Board of Trustees agenda for the December meeting. But I wanted to let you know that I was a part of that process. It was an amazing honor for me to be invited to that level. There is in the works a Success Center redesign plan. It's been, the plan started quite a while ago. I want to say a couple of years. And at this point, I'm just sharing it with you as information. The idea of the Success Center redesign is to take the however many Success Centers we have and kind of consolidate them underneath one roof. There is a little bit of talk about which roof that will be. I know that there is some concern with the current proposal, but well, I think I'm going to leave it at that. But there is a Success Center redesign underway, and folks are meeting and talking about it. Probably more information will be coming as it solidifies. We had 53 faculty members attend the virtual webinar on this last Saturday, the A2 Mend webinar. The first one we had nearly 60 faculty. The second one was like 30, and then this one was back up to over 50. So it's amazing the number of folks who are involving themselves in those. We haven't done anything with the reading circles. Earlier in the term, I offered to the Academic Senate would buy one of 4 anti-racism books. Hopefully you have the books, and I've decided maybe midway through the term, it might be good for you to have through the break to make sure you have done some reading, read the book, whatever book you've chosen or was allotted to you or whatever. And we will pick that up in spring and do something with the information that we're getting out of these books. And finally, you may be aware that there is a new ethnic studies requirement for the CSU schools. And I believe the requirement's going to take effect in fall of 2021. And what the Curriculum Instruction Committee has done is identified various courses that can be cross-listed that already fit all of the criteria that are required by the CSU that can be cross-listed as ethnic studies courses so that our students can transfer with that requirement satisfied already. It looks like Dr. Juni wants to weigh in on this.
I was just going to add, so at the last CNI meeting on Thursday, I know it was on the agenda to approve 10 of those courses. And so I don't know what the vote was, but if that's the case, we won't be perfect yet, but we will meet the what is expected of us to meet by fall of 2021.
Yeah. So that's happening. I just want you to be aware that we aren't collectively dropping the ball on this new CSU requirement. Okay. And with that, we will move on to, whoops. The Vice President, is there a Vice President's report today?
I was just going to let the Senate know that I was tasked with leading a discussion about proctorial with faculty, students, and to make a recommendation for the college, and that will be taking place December 1st.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Is there a Secretary's report?
No report.
All right. And then our Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Matt. I would like to read the numbers into the record. The balance as of November 9th, 2020, combined for checking and savings was $21,174.51. The balance as of November 23rd, I think there's a typo there, Matt, 2020 was $21,163.33 for a net loss of $11.18. Matt, I would also like to report out as co-chair of the Student Success Committee. We invited our team led by Tamika Alexander from the Outreach Center to discuss the current outreach efforts to the African American community. And Tamika presented a very professional overview of a comprehensive plan that is currently underway. And I want to reiterate Professor Constantine's request that everyone sign up to be part of the Freshman 15 effort to help guide our Black and African American students through the application process. I also wanted to point out that we have a problem with persistence. So over the last 5 years, approximately 40% of our Black and African American students do not return for the spring semester. And so in addition to outreach efforts, we need a concerted campus-wide effort to increase persistence that will probably take considerable professional development on the part of the faculty. So that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Oops. Okay, I have some campus-wide committee share-outs, just a couple this time. The College Council share-out enrollments are looking good for winter. We're a little ahead of where we were last year. Who knew? We're going to be hiring a nursing faculty member and a foster youth counselor. Any other positions would be subject to retirements and funding discussions. You already know what's the deal for teaching in winter. And then there's possibly good news from the state, believe it or not, regarding the budget. Who knew? We won't know. We will know more in January when Governor Newsom's budget is released. So there may be a surprise from the state with that. And then I missed one here. I forgot to put College Council on my slide. I see what's happening. The Facilities Standing Committee has approved a few goals this year. Among them, facilitate support for the Technology Master Plan and making recommendations to College Council regarding expansion and relocation of the Black Student Success Center. We're going to have a presentation on that later today. And supporting the Campus Sustainability Committee's recommendations. And there was a Technology Master Plan Town Hall, or actually a couple of them. They were successful in gathering an abundance of feedback. And demolition bids for the Serafian building are due in a week, and they're projected to start, I'm going to call it dismantling it. They say demoing it, but there's not going to be any noise. It's just going to bolt by bolt and floor by floor. And they're expecting to start to dismantle it. Looks like started in December, like next month. Okay. They were going to relocate the former Foster Youth Center, but now it won't be relocated for the moment. And they're going to continue work on relocating the Lancer Pantry, and that work is going to be done in-house. That is the report from the Facilities Standing Committee. Dr. Juni.
So I just wanted to update because I know the health science and Nat Sci faculty were getting excited about what you just said about the Serapian building. And so Dr. Bush reported this morning to exec that he's heard from the state, and the Department of Finance now has to review our bids before we can accept them. And they're saying right now the turnaround for that work is 60 days. And so he is going to work with our legislative people in the area as well as others to see if we can get an exception to that because of various aspects of our need for this. But it may be that it's not coming down in December. It may not be until February.
You heard it here, folks. All right, thank you. Bevel.
Yes, Matt. I know previously you had said that there was a counselor position that may have been hired. Is that to say that that's off the table now, based on your report?
No. You mean the Black Student Success Counselor?
Yes.
No, it's not off the table, but its status is pending further discussion and look at finances.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Nursing will potentially lose their accreditation if they don't hire, so that's an absolute need. And then the foster youth counselor has a different, as a protected funding. And so it doesn't come from the same pool as the rest of the faculty. And that's why those two are going to be hired. The Black Student Success Counselor is the next one on the list. And so if any positions are going to be able to be flown beyond those two, absolutely the Black Student Success Counselor will be it, as far as I know. Okay. Do we have any Academic Senate subcommittee reports?
So I don't have reports right now, but on our new agenda items, there's some subcommittees that will be reporting to us.
Okay. Okay. With that, I need to ask for two additions. We're moving on to item C.
So I was going to make a motion.
Yes, please.
Can I make a motion to add 1B for Lindsay Ruiz to be added to the Safe Learning Environment Committee? Should I do the motions at the same time?
Let's just do them both.
Okay. And then the second motion I'd like to make was to add an item 3 to have Desiree Suniga and Christina Salazar Romo to the Faculty Coordinator Title V Pathways to Completion 2 Grant Hiring Committee.
A mouthful. So the motion the motion has been made to add these items that you see in italics, these names that you see in italics. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Jolene, thank you. Excuse me, Tallene, thank you. Moved by Veronica, seconded by Tallene. If there are no objections, then we will go ahead and add these names to consent item C. And if there are no objections to doing so, we will do so by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Not seeing any hands, then we will move to approve consent item C by unanimous consent unless there are any objections. Are there any objections? All right, then consent item C is approved by unanimous consent. Congratulations to all of them. We're moving on to one of our standing information items, guided pathways. Miriam.
Hi, everyone. I have a bunch of announcements for you, and I will be tapping Sheila in for her portion of the guided pathways work as well. So the schedule of classes for spring has posted. It posted last Friday. Your students should be encouraged to take a look already. Registration will begin Monday, November 30th with the earliest registration groups. PCC Complete, if you're not familiar with it, is something that students can apply for to get priority registration in their last semester as they complete with us. So in an effort to support students in their last semester at PCC, we've processed nearly 400 requests for the spring term, and students were able to raise their hand using PCC Connect to apply for quote unquote apply for graduation, and it's serving as their graduation petition. The Virtual Support Center has hosted just over about 8,000 contacts with students. These are not unduplicated. These are, as the front door of the college, like we've had about 8,000 contacts, more probably because I got this number last Monday. So we're super grateful to the staff and faculty who've participated in the VSC to support students through a variety of concerns and to help connect them with appropriate services like financial aid and admissions and records and counseling. PCC Connect on the non-credit side, the team has started to work with training non-credit tutors and the staff there on using PCC Connect to track student contacts. We're using this as the centralized system for student contact and tutoring right now. And so we're slowly onboarding different areas into the use of the tool. I've also be working with Brian Pangan on using it for counseling eventually as we transition counseling into this tool as well. It's also going to help serve as a way to network non-credit with the credit side of the house so that they're in line with the processes and procedures that we're using here. And it'll help interconnect the way that we communicate with each other, basically. That's why it's called PCC Connect. And then a program map update. All program maps have been shared with the deans. We sent out an email last week to all the deans with the links to their program maps and asked them to share with us which faculty would be the point people and best people to take a look at those maps. And so the next phase of this is to reach out to those faculty as we go along to make sure that everyone that's looking at the maps is okay with them. And now the mapper supports non-credit, so we will soon have the non-credit programs on there. And Sheila.
Thank you, Miriam. I would like to share that we're looking at the final draft of our career community websites. So this will be a space on the web to centralize information about academic and career supports for students, as well as campus engagement. Our career community faculty leads and our student advisory equipo are working to envision our network of care. So the network of care are really the way we're going to achieve our mission statement to provide customized student support to our students. The Freeman Center is going to be offering professional development on work-based learning for faculty so they can connect students to those career development opportunities. And then I would like to extend an invitation to the Senate at large, but also to everyone in the room and really to all employees to our career data inquiry group. This is a research practitioner partnership that we have with UCLA that's led by their Associate Dean of Equity and Inclusion, Dr. Cecilia Rios Aguilar. We've been participating in the data inquiry group for about 3 years, and we have learned a lot about our students. Cecilia has a team of PhD students who do their doctoral work researching about our PCC students and specifically about their career and major decision-making process, and focusing specifically on our historically underserved students, our Black, African American, and Latinx students. So if you would like to learn more about how to support those students specifically, we meet once a month on the third Friday from 11 to 12:30. And the next one will be December 18th. And I can have Matt send out that invite when we're closer to the date. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I am going to look in our participants. Actually, I'll just do a quick little search here. Okay, one of the presenters for the next agenda item, the Black Student Success Center proposal, is not yet here. She was going to be in class until, I don't remember, maybe around 4 o'clock. When she gets here, we will come back to this agenda item, so it will be addressed today. But for now, we are going to skip it and move on to the next thing, an information item, the academic calendars. This is now the official recommendation from from the calendar committee to College Council. What you're looking at here is the academic calendar for the 2022-23 academic year, so the year after next. And this is, as I described it, starts in at the end of August. Fall is never under contention, right? The spring term starts on January 9th with Professional Development Day on January 6th. And spring break, a week after finals before the first summer session, a few days here between the, oh, is that a week? A week between the two summer sessions. That's where we stand now. This is the 22-23 calendar. And then here is the 23-24 calendar. It's about the same. So this is being presented to you as an information item before College Council actually approves it and makes the recommendation to the Superintendent President. As an information item, there can be discussion. Is there any desire for discussion? Professor Cairo.
Thank you, Professor Hennis. So looking at this, I know that the Academic Senate voted to have a winter for 2020 for the 22-23 year, but that was voted down. So is the Senate going to have an opportunity to change this, or are you asking us to vote for the 23-24 without a winter, without any discussion of incorporating a winter? At what point does the Senate have the opportunity to include a winter? I guess is my question here.
Well, this is currently being presented as an information item, not an action item.
Right, but I'm sorry, but how far has this gotten before should we not been part of the discussion at the beginning? I don't know how far this has reached. Has it gone to the students? Has it gone to College Council, et cetera? How far has it gone as far before we saw it today?
College Council had their first read on it last week.
Okay, should we not have seen this before it went to College Council though? I believe there was a procedure in play that if it went to College Council, that's almost the end. I think we should have seen this sooner. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I've been giving the Academic Senate reports at most meetings, letting them know the structure of the calendar that the calendar committee was working on.
So do we have the opportunity to include a winter?
At this, I don't know that.
Because what I'm thinking is this, Professor Hennis, if today, like you said, this is informational item. And if hypothetically, we were to say no, at what point do we have the opportunity to include a winter? So if we are currently at a discussion phase, can we not at this moment say, introduce the fact that some of us, the social science division, for example, would like a winter?
So the vote that was taken was for the academic year 21-22 and beyond.
I thought it was only 21-22. And if that's the case, then the Senate voted to have a winter and beyond, correct?
The agenda item and the motion were to preserve winter for 21-22 and beyond. So the Academic Senate did have that vote. The Academic Senate representatives did vote in the calendar committee meetings.
Right. So why is the will of the Senate not included here? Because I believe the Student Association also voted for it. I believe the union voted for it, but it looks like the college is not responsive to the will of the students, to the will of the faculty, to the will of the union, because here we're being presented with a calendar that does not include winter.
We are, and the answer to that question—
voice our concern about this.
The answer to that question, Professor Cairo, is that there were more people in the room who voted for the calendar without winter than people in the room who voted for the calendar with winter. It was a democratic process. The winter vote lost in the calendar committee.
Right, but if I remember right, you were silent, nor were you, we'll say, did not present a strong voice for the Senate. If I remember what happened at this meeting.
I abstained for the vote.
Right, but you represent us. You're not there to represent yourself. You represent the faculty. So why did you have to abstain? Why could you not say, as president of the Academic Senate representing all faculty, I'm here to say that we oppose it.
We have been through this before, Professor Cairo, and when I started to answer, you cut me off.
I apologize.
I don't see how I could have had one vote that would represent both the 57% of the Academic Senate who voted in favor of keeping winter and the 43% who voted in favor of eliminating winter. I didn't understand with a vote that close how one vote could represent the whole faculty. That's why I abstained. It didn't have anything to do with me personally. In fact, for all of these calendars, when they have come up, I have abstained on all of the votes. The fact is, as I said, more people voted for the calendar without winter than voted for the calendar with winter in the calendar committee. Therefore, that's the calendar that was presented to College Council. The 21-22 has just recently been approved by the Board of Trustees. That happened, I believe, in October. And the 22-23 and the 23-24 calendars are of the same format of the one that was already approved. I didn't bring this in here for another vote for a couple of reasons. Number one, the way the first one went down and the subsequent result. And number two, I was aware that it had been contended by the Faculty Association prior to going to the Board of Trustees. And I didn't want to bring it into the Academic Senate while that was still going on and the Board of Trustees had not yet approved it. The Board of Trustees has approved the previous calendar. These two are the ones that the calendar committee have approved, and they're now coming to you as an information item. But I want to remind you that the calendar is not a 10+1 issue. We get to have our voice. The way it went down, it didn't agree with the process, was not aligned with the majority vote in the Academic Senate. That is the answer to your question. I'm going to now ask for an extension because the Secretary has told me we would run out of time. Is there a motion to extend this information item?
Motion to extend by 5 minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Sheila, seconded by Terry. Does anybody object to approving by unanimous consent? Then that extension is approved, and we will move on now to Bevel.
Yes. How much consultation does the calendar committee have with the Faculty Association?
They have one representative on the committee.
Faculty Association has one representative on the calendar committee.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Veronica.
I just wanted to say that it was my understanding from the president coming in talking to us that we were going to be looking at a calendar without a winter and gaining information and getting data on whether our students were more successful or not. So I think that it's been openly expressed that we were going to try for calendars for 3 years without a winter to see the effect on our student success. So I don't feel like we're being surprised by this if we're listening to what people are telling us.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Eduardo.
Just one thing. I think that as president of the Academic Senate, whether a vote by the Senate passes unanimously or by one vote, I don't think that should warrant whether or not you support it completely or not. If the Senate voted one way and you're there as representative of the Senate, you should defend it. It doesn't matter by how many votes. And the fact that you think that it only passed by 57%, I don't think that's right.
Point of order.
Okay.
I thought we were, point of order. We're discussing the calendar.
Yeah, we are discussing the calendar, correct.
Shouldn't comments be directed at the calendar?
What is your point of order, please?
The point of order is
that you speak to the item.
Okay, I'll speak to the item. The item is the calendar and the fact that when our Senate president was representative.
No, Eduardo, the item is the calendar for 22, 23, and 23, 24, and it's being presented as an information item. What you are talking about is a conversation that we have already had and is an event that occurred quite a while ago. Thank you for your opinion on how I should act as Academic Senate President. Do you have any further comments regarding the 22-23 calendar as it sits here as an information item, or the 23-24 calendar as it sits here as an information item?
Yes, as was stated, when the president came in and presented her information, she said that data needed to be collected. The data showed that a non-winter did not support students, but yet she went ahead and implemented this. I think this is something that we all need to be aware of. Students do not support this. That's what the data showed. Thank you.
The data, in fact, were inconclusive as to whether winter was the be-all, end-all. Does anybody else have any comment? Veronica.
I think the truth is that we didn't have enough data either way to say whether this was going to be beneficial or not. So I think it behooves us to give this a chance and to actually collect data to see if this is beneficial and not just surmise that it is not.
Thank you. Okay, not seeing any new hands up. This item will pass unless there are any last minute hands. All right. Then we are going to move backwards in our agenda because the person that I was waiting for has showed up. We have here Sylvia Tlalowick, math faculty and faculty co-chair of the Facility Standing Committee. And I believe we also have Vice President Candace Jones, who is the faculty co-chair of the Facility Standing Committee. Do you have a presentation?
Yes.
Cool. You should be set up to share. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. I've been having some trouble with Zoom today. I hope it doesn't continue, and I apologize in advance if it does. But hello, everybody. My name is Sylvia Tlalowick, and I am one of the co-chairs of the Facility Standing Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to share the rationale underlying the recommendation for the expansion of the Black Student Success Center. Thank you also to Candace Jones, which created that very detailed report that was available to you in the packet along with the email. So this recommendation supports PCC's mission to create an equity-minded learning community and efforts to close equity and opportunity gaps in degree completion and transfers. The proactive and intentional goal of addressing the needs of Black and African-American students at PCC has led to the commitment of expanding the Black Student Success Center. It is also consistent with institutional policies and priorities outlined in the Educational Master Plan, the statewide vision for success goals, and our institutional priority to communicate a sense of belonging for students who have been historically marginalized in higher education. The Black Student Success Center has reached capacity, in fact, a while back. It was formed by uniting 2 adjacent offices capable of accommodating a maximum of 15 people. In addition, it is located away from main traffic areas. Providing an adequately sized and highly visible space will help to create a sense of community and affirm the collective support perceived on campus by our Black and African American students. The Facility Standing Committee seeks to implement a phased approach to gain insights throughout the process. There is a parallel effort to assess the use of facilities on campus, and both efforts would complement one another. We considered 4 unassigned and/or vacant spaces on PCC's main campus and prioritized minimal modifications and renovations as to not exceed our proposed budget of $10,000. This recommendation is for the temporary location of the Black Student Success Center, as the future permanent location will be determined by the facility's master plan. The first location that was considered was the Lancer Pantry, and it offered proximity to the current Black Student Success Center, as well as a conference room, but it did not accommodate a capacity of 45 to 50 students, which was what determined is needed. And it lacks the necessary office space without costly renovations that would exceed the proposed budget. It was also not highly visible. The former Career Center, located in the L building, would accommodate service capacity requirements, has the necessary office spaces, tutoring, personal counseling, workshop, and other event spaces currently available. Moreover, the location is highly visible, is already furnished, and would require minimal renovations. The only drawback was that it lacked a conference room. Classroom R523 can provide service capacity requirements and has enough space for tutoring, for workshops, for events, and a conference room, but the significant amount of modifications that the space would require would exceed the proposed phase 1 budget. The last space that was considered was D300, but it was ruled out because of negative impact of services offered to students by the Learning Assistance Center. Research has shown that the creation of highly visible locations on college campuses that foster a sense of belonging directly correlates to the increase of student retention, academic achievement, and persistence to degree attainment. The Facility Standing Committee, in allyship with our Black and African American faculty, staff, and students, worked to advance justice and equity and formally recommended to the College Council that the vacated Career Center in the L building was the optimal space for phase 1 of the Black Student Success Center. I would like to thank the members of the Black Student Success Center Task Force and the Facility Standing Committee, all of which had a hand in pushing all of this through. And as you can see, we were very well represented for a lot of factions across campus. Are there any questions that I can answer? And I think I may have seen one pop up. Let's check the chat.
Bevel.
Yes. Can the Facility Standing Committee consider changing the name from the Black Student Success Center to the African American Student Success Center? Because that word Black does not truly represent us. I mean, Black is a color. You never see, well, I'm not going to go into detail, but can you all consider changing the name from Black to African American?
Sure, I would be very open to presenting that to the task force, as well as I know the process would be that would be a separate recommendation that would go towards the executive committee, and I will definitely present that to the team.
And will the African Student Success Counselor be housed in the same area? Is that the thinking for the future?
Yes, that's the goal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Eduardo has a hand up.
Oh, yes, Eduardo.
I swear I wasn't lying. I saw it.
It was up.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments for Sylvia?
I apologize.
Oh, hey, there you are.
Yeah, thank you. I was on mute. I apologize. I'll start over. Great presentation. Thank you very much. I was wondering, looking towards the future, given the fact that the college has approximately about a 50% Latino student body population, I'm hoping that one day we too can get a Latino success counselor. If that bears fruition, I'm wondering that if this current center could be big enough that eventually to house both the African, I'm going to go ahead and use the term African American, I prefer that over Black too, African American Success Center, as well as the Latino Success Center. Was there a consideration?
This item is the Black Student Success Center. It is a single solitary item and it has a singular focus. Any discussions about a Latino or Latinx Student Success Center or counselor are not related to this item.
Well, it is, because I'm looking towards the future, and looking towards the future, we always should think of obtaining a room.
I've made a ruling, Professor Cairo. If you have a comment or a question about this particular center, then please direct it about this particular center.
Okay, my question here is was there a discussion made about the possibility of whatever location of being large enough to expand in the future without having to move to a different room?
So first, we would already be likely moving to a different room because this is phase 1 of the expansion. The permanent expansion is going to be determined by the facilities master plan. And so this is right now a temporary location set to with the goal of opening in February for the special Black History Awareness Month. And they would be located there for about, 2 to 4 years. That's how long it's perceived that all of the other bond measures and final, monies are going to be able to be acquired for the final location of a lot of things around campus. There's quite a few things. Secondly, just as part of the facilities committee, standing committee, we have looked forward and talked about making a standardized method for creating different spaces on campus. Right now, we currently don't have a way to kind of prioritize what gets made. It's kind of like triage. So we are looking, and this is the first recommendation by the facilities standing committee that is moving towards that aim. One thing that we have talked about is core on campus and finding them their own space. I would also be open to finding a multicultural center. I mean, kind of a broader environment for what you're talking about.
We are out of time for this item, so we're going to need an extension if it's going to continue. I'd like to remind everybody that this agenda item is an agenda item that exists on our agenda because Black Lives Matter. That is this agenda item. Is there a motion to extend?
Motion to extend by 5 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved by Gina, seconded by Dr. Stevens to extend by 5 minutes. If there are no objections, we'll approve that by unanimous consent. It's been approved, motion carries. Armia, you are next.
Hello, everyone. I just want to make a quick comment about the discussion behind using Black or African American. Gina Lopez and I, we were privileged to be instrumental in creating the first Black Student Success Center on campus. And we used it considerable amount of time to discussing whether to use African American or Black. But we decided to use Black because all of our students are not African American. They come from France. They come from Latin America. They come from the diaspora, meaning Black people were dispersed all over the earth due to slavery. And so we chose to use Black, and we will continue to use Black. And please feel comfortable using Black when referring to Black students. Because it's not just African American. These are not just Black people from America. They're from everywhere. And so we didn't want to exclude anyone, right? Because we are collectivist people, and we recognize that we have family throughout the earth and that we want to acknowledge all of them. And so we use the term Black. And please feel free, don't feel like it's offensive. Black is just a term to be inclusive. And that's all. I mean, just like you would use other terms to include a group of people. So just wanted to say that, that's all.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jeff.
I was just about to say the same thing. So,
Okay.
So I just agree with her. I consider myself Black first, not African American. So I think that Black covers also, and I feel comfortable being called Black. So there's no need to change that.
Okay. So clearly there are different perspectives out there, right? Does anybody else want to speak to the agenda item of the Black Student Success Center and the information that we just received? Candace, you are here.
I just wanted to announce that we're targeting a launch of the new center in February of 2021 as a celebration of Black History Month.
Cool, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Folks, I've been telling you, when Sylvia took over as the faculty co-chair of this, she hit the ground running. I swear she had this plan halfway drawn out in her hand when she hit the ground running. So it was great to see her just take this up and to see the success that she has seen so far on this. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for caring and for doing this as part of your work. And for Candace now as the administrative co-chair of the Facilities Standing Committee. I applaud your efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Then if you would stop sharing.
Yes.
We're going to move on. And I don't know if y'all remember, but at some point last meeting, I told you that I was doing a phenomenal job. And that was mostly true. However, I didn't realize until the end of the last meeting, when we were about to adjourn with a motion on the floor, that that job was maybe phenomenal, and then some other things as well. Here's the deal, folks. I actually left hanging from 2 meetings ago a motion on the floor. And we're now on the next agenda item, the use of cameras during synchronous class sessions. And according to Robert's Rules of Order, the conversation is to pick up where it left off. If there is a motion on the floor when we adjourn, when that item comes up, well, actually, we're supposed to start with that item, but that's not how we roll. We are to pick up the conversation with that agenda, or with that motion still on the floor. It was postponed. And so it was my mistake last meeting that I didn't bring it up as, here's the motion that had been presented. I went back and double checked the minutes to make sure that I had this all correct. There was a motion made, in which I think, and maybe, I don't know, John, this is a surprise questioning, but John Hanley, our parliamentarian, this is a negative motion, or maybe it's a positive statement that about a negative, it's a positive motion about a negative statement. We can't make a negative motion. I don't know if this is legit. I'm going to let John figure that out in just a minute. But then there was a primary amendment that there would be an exception during testing situations. That amendment was approved, and here's where we stand. Should this motion carry, it will carry with this primary amendment. That amendment was approved. There's a secondary amendment, except during assessments such as a test or quiz situation. So it was a modification of the primary amendment. That's where we sit now. You can make a motion to adopt a policy, even if that policy is not to allow, this would be faculty members to do something. Okay, so it's a positive motion about a negative statement. So it is allowed, we're allowed to have this motion. All right, we're gonna pick this up from here. We've talked about this twice. You've had the opinion, the legal counsel opinion, which basically says it's not illegal for you to require cameras, but privacy, pages and pages on that. Does anybody want to weigh in? At this point, the conversation, and it should have been last time, it was my mistake. I'll call my own point of order there. The conversation needs to be about, at present, it needs to be about the secondary amendment and whether or not to approve the secondary amendment. Terry.
As the author of the Second Amendment, I want to speak to the ability for faculty to have proctored type test taking, and for the efficacy of evaluation and assessment, and the opportunity to have a camera on would help in that. We've already talked about going online on out for several more semesters and to be determined. I think assessments should be a part of what we do here at Academic Senate, and that's the purpose of this motion, so I speak to it.
Thank you. I think Donna's next.
Does the secondary amendment, is that broad enough for like our colleagues in, I think it was cosmetology that talked about kind of almost needing it on, I don't know, all the time, or maybe apart from the few hours that were lecture. I don't know if she's here. Can't see.
We'll have to toss that as a question out, and if somebody wants to weigh in, they can. But at this point, that has been your comment / question. And I believe somebody's going to weigh in. I can see the hands up here. So I think that's going to be addressed by Professor Allen, actually. But first, we've got to hear from Brian.
Yeah, quick point. I'm wondering if this is too late because our course catalog has already been, or our course offerings have already been published for the winter. And two, as I recall, Professor Jaramillo mentioned that on, what was it, December 1st, I'm looking back at my notes, we're going to have a recommendation on what to do about proctorio. And proctorio really seems to be the root of this whole issue. I don't really want to put this off any longer than it already has been, but I'm wondering if it already isn't too late to worry about the winter, and if we ought to just wait another week anyway, because we're waiting on a ruling on the way that the school is going to work on proctorio. And I don't know, I would encourage maybe Professor Jaramillo to say her piece on this, and if I misunderstand.
Well, that meeting hasn't happened yet, and it won't happen until after we're probably going to have a meeting on November 30th. This is scheduled for November 1st. And so that meeting will inform the college policy, but if the Academic Senate is going to weigh in this semester, it's got to be this meeting or on Monday, which will be prior to that. I will move on to Richard.
So in our program, the state requires our students' hours to be logged as well as their practicals. So whatever they do, we have to track and turn them in, and they're kept in their proof of training when they go to take their boards. So if it could be a little bit more general, we don't have to see them 100% of the time, but we don't want them to then be able to say, well, the rules are we don't have to show you what we're doing. It makes it difficult. So maybe it could be less specific because it says just during assessments, maybe as needed per class situations, but not so specific.
Okay, Armia.
Yeah, I was going to say sort of along the same lines, if there's a way that we could let students know which courses are going to require your camera on and maybe what percentage, that would help them gauge. Because I know if I'm a student and I don't have an environment where I can share my camera, I may, register for a class that says, no camera required. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if you just do that in the syllabus or if some way we could do it on the schedule of classes. I don't know who's in charge of that, but just some thoughts to maybe give the students some kind of agency, some type of, because we have all the power, give them a little bit of power in choosing which course they want to take.
Yeah, so it can't be put into the winter schedule at this point because that winter schedule has already been published. I don't know if it's too late for the spring schedule, but what that, just the nuts and bolts of it, what that would require would be that every dean hear from every faculty member and then distill that information into the schedule. I take your point. I'm not sure if it's a possibility. Just keep that in mind.
Right. Just putting my thoughts out there. I didn't know how feasible it was, but just wondering.
I don't either. And folks, I know we're talking about winter and spring. I don't even have a sense of whether we're talking about summer or not. That's so up in the air with the way the virus is going, with the way the vaccines are coming out, everything. So right now, I want you to think about winter and spring and potentially moving forward. We really don't know. We have Deandra.
Hello, everyone. I think it would be great if we could just define what assessment means. I know it says test and quiz situation, but as I said in the last meeting, we are assessing our students most of the time. So if I think the secondary amendment could work for our discipline if we didn't list test and quiz, because we're not necessarily giving them a test or quiz when we're assessing them to improve their work in cosmetology, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I don't know if I should be weighing in, but I'm going to do it. I had an idea for a positive statement that might work. Something to the effect of, you know what, the words are escaping me, so I'm just going to move on to Veronica.
Hi, I was just going to say that I don't think we should be so constricting. I think that we have people who are discipline experts, and we should accept that they know what's best for their field. I would never claim to teach other people the way that they should be teaching cosmetology, for instance. So in the natural sciences, since we've been using Proctorio, we have made a footnote on classes that will be using it in the winter and in the spring. And I think that maybe we should be coming up with footnotes that can go into the schedule that are generically made, and it's possible to do that just like zero textbook is possible. So I think that that's what we should be doing instead of trying to micromanage other instructors.
Thank you. Susan?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I agree with Veronica. I do have colleagues in natural sciences who have said that they really do need access to cameras. And I wanted to bring up that we've been told tomorrow in biology is our deadline to add footnotes for spring. So for us, that's the deadline. For other folks, I don't know.
Okay, thank you. The wording that I finally came up with was something like, in cases when supervisory assessment is not occurring, instructors should not require the use of cameras in synchronous Zoom sessions. I feel like that captures the motion in the amendments. I don't know. If that's an acceptable statement for you folks, then what would have to happen is this would need to be postponed indefinitely, and then a new motion would need to be made. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm just telling you that that's the process by which it would happen. Otherwise, it would come to votes on the secondary amendment. So let's just, I need to refocus this. Does anybody have further comments on the secondary amendment, not the original motion, but the secondary amendment? And some of what I've heard is that it is maybe a little bit too restrictive. It's not quite broad enough. It lacks specificity in what means assessment. That's a little bit of what I've heard. Tolleen.
Well, now I'm unsure if what I'm about to say is going to answer your question. I was going to go back to what Professor Walker said. So I'm not sure if you want me to or just let it go. Because now you're trying to talk about, okay, I'm complicating it. I'm just going to say it real fast. I know that you mentioned that perhaps this is really only for winter and spring and not necessarily summer because we don't know what's happening with COVID, but this policy can perhaps extend past, because I wonder if PCC will now start to adopt more online courses because we're now trained, we have the ability to teach. And so this may go way past COVID, even when we're back on campus. So I do think that we can think long-term. But also back to the idea, I like the idea of footnotes. I think that's great. But if we're not able to do that, is there some sort of automatic mechanism that can be put in place to email students that are registered in the class and perhaps email weekly until we have like some sort of standard process in place?
Okay, so that's going to go to the original motion.
Okay, my bad. See, that's why I thought, I was like, maybe I shouldn't say it.
And I'm going to delete this one because it is a negative motion and we can't have that. So, and folks, the problem with a negative motion, by the way, is that if we have a negative motion and it's not approved, then we don't know what that means, according to Robert's Rules of Order. So we're going to get rid of that. And I am told that we are up, time is up for this item. Is there an extension?
I'd like to make an motion to extend for 5 minutes, please.
Okay, so Jennifer Feebig has moved to extend by 5 minutes. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Veronica Jaramillo has seconded. So moved by Jennifer Feebig, seconded by Veronica Jaramillo. If there are no objections, we'll extend by 5 minutes by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Then that motion carries. We are extended by 5 minutes. Jennifer.
Yeah, I just need to make a quick statement that we had in the social sciences a division meeting, and overwhelmingly most of us were against requiring students to use cameras. So I'm really in line with the idea of somehow footnoting or somehow saying that in the future faculty have to even state within the first week how much cameras somehow, so that students know which classes to select.
Okay. Thank you. That speaks to the original motion. Folks, we were supposed to be on the secondary amendment. The question is, do you want to amend the already approved amendment to include quizzes? I mean, that's what we should be talking about, folks. Carmen.
So I guess just listening to my colleagues, it seems like, yes, if we're approving the first one, then we will approve it to include quizzes. But to expand on some of the divisions that need supervision, could it just say in-class assignments? So work that they would do, on their own at home and things like that would not apply to this, but anything that would be done like inside the classroom would require it.
Unfortunately, we cannot have 3 levels of amendment. We are limited to 2. Here's what I'm going to do. We're going to vote on the secondary amendment. And then whatever happens after that as a result of that vote. Donna?
Can Terry adjust his secondary amendment if he so chose to take off such as a test or quiz and just leave it as assessment? Is that
not all by himself? An amendment is a motion. The motion belongs to the body. The body can change the secondary amendment.
Oh, I thought he could. Okay.
Do you want to offer? But that would be a tertiary amendment. We can't do that. We can rework it if it fails.
Because I feel that such as a test or quiz situation did not address the cosmetology.
Okay. Well, here's where we stand. We've already approved this amendment here, and we can overturn that approval by a 2/3 majority should we so choose. At this point, what we're going to do is we're going to vote on this secondary amendment. Folks, none of this is related. None of this deals with the first motion, okay? The question on the floor is, do you want the wording to change to reflect this, except in cases such as a test or quiz situation, that would replace during testing situations? Do you want that amendment to pass? And you know what? I'm going to do this. I think I can see almost all of you here. Can I do John, let me know if this is wrong. Can I just do a straw poll to find out if we need to have a roll call vote, or if we can just do this by, no, we can't do it by unanimous consent. We need to vote. This has to be a roll call vote. Because my sense is that it may not pass, and so I wouldn't want it to go by unanimous consent. Gina, are you ready? Oh dear.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought I was going to have to do it.
I'm sorry. I got it.
You're on.
Just a moment, please.
Okay. If you vote yes, then you're voting for this change in wording. Terry, is your hand up right before the vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Oh, does the body permit Terry to withdraw the motion? I'm seeing some nodding here. Is there, oh, you're brilliant. Thank you. You let us off the hook. Is there any objection to approving that withdrawal by unanimous consent? Oh, that motion carries. This secondary amendment has been killed. You did it, Terry. You figured out how to do it. Then we're back to the original motion as amended. I know. Which could also be withdrawn or not. The primary amendment can be struck in or changed if there is a 2/3 majority, which unanimous consent covers. I'll leave it to y'all. What do you want to do?
Can we just withdraw that one too?
No, it would have to be overturned by, and it could be done by unanimous.
Are we then saying that we're going to require that faculty can't use cameras at all?
If the primary
you're suggesting,
there can be a secondary, or there can be a different secondary amendment, but if this primary amendment were to go away, then that would be the motion on the floor. Yes, we at this point could do one of several things. We could make a new secondary amendment. We could postpone this motion indefinitely, which essentially kills it and wipes the slate clean and allows for a brand new motion. Dr. Bernardo.
Yes, I'm just wondering if there's any procedure, because it seems like people are having an issue with language right now, to withdraw the whole motion or table. I don't know what the verbiage is, and bring up a new motion written, I guess, better or more specifically that we could vote on.
You could make that motion. We just did it. We could do it again. That would apply to the primary motion or the original motion.
Yes, that's what I would say. So is that a motion that I can make or we can make?
So you move that the original motion be withdrawn.
Second.
Wait, is that the motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Then it has been moved by Dr. Bernardo, seconded by Terry Stoddard. Is there any discussion? I don't know if this is a discussion item. Folks, I'm not used to these waters here. I'm going to say there's discussion on this, and John will let me know if I'm wrong. Donna.
So if what would be the purpose of doing that? To come right now again and come up with the motion that we're happy with? Or because, like, I mean, my division really, at least several people have contacted me that this is important for us to not require it. We do not want to require it always, but to have the ability to turn on cameras during a test or quiz. But I'm open to making it for assessment, because I think that includes the other division's needs.
Here's another option. I feel like I know what your will is. I feel generally that as an academic senate, you're opposed to instructors being allowed to require the use of camera for all synchronous Zoom sessions, just as a matter of course. However, there are some exceptions in some areas and during testing or assessment situations where you want the instructor to have the ability to require that of students, provided that they communicate that to the students. Okay, what I can do is take all of that and sit down with Dr. Juni before he retires, and we can craft a joint statement together and then send that out to the faculty. If you were of a mind, you could postpone this motion indefinitely and then make a motion that I do that. If you don't feel like that's a great way to go, I won't be offended, but I do see some hands up. Brian. Wait, There's a motion that's been made and seconded to withdraw this previously made motion. So can you, just to that motion? Go ahead.
My discussion is in line with this motion. So as I understand it, do we have time to scrap this and then make a totally new motion? Like, do we have time right now to make that happen if we all come together and cooperate and get that done and rewrite a new one, exactly what you just said together? Do we have time to do that right now?
Well, I said this meeting's probably going to go till 6 o'clock. We have quite a few APs, but those are probably going to be quick because they're first reads. I believe we have the time.
So can I encourage everybody to just bring this to a vote right now?
I heard what you say. I heard you say you moved to call the question.
I moved to call the question.
Okay, that requires a 2/3 majority. And so if there are no objections, we will call the question by unanimous consent. If there are any objections, then we can do it by a roll call vote.
Second Brian's vote, motion, please.
Okay, we were seconded just in case we need it. So Brian has moved to call the question, seconded by Terry Stoddard. And I don't see any objections. So by unanimous consent, we're calling the question. And what that means is now the vote on the floor is going to be whether or not we withdraw this motion. Can you give me some indication as to whether you're going to vote yes or no? Okay, no, well, I can just do it this way. Are there any objections to approving that by unanimous consent? Okay.
Whatever.
Then that motion carries. The original motion is dead. There are no amendments. Does anybody have proposed wording? Colleen.
I would just like to add, if we are going to put verbiage about communicating with students clearly, that it's done prior to the first week of class, because if a student cannot abide by the requirements, then they perhaps do not have the opportunity to add another section or another course. And we could be hurting them if they're not going to be able to add 12 units. If they're international students, then they could be out of status. So I think that there needs to be a mechanism to communicate clearly, either in the footnote section or a mechanism to email beforehand. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Terry.
I would like to suggest that we take a look at this more as a resolution than as a motion here today, because there are so many components. We were able to do that in the spring with an effort to get faculty guidance on how to handle their classes. And I think this falls into the same category. And I would like to suggest that we give this to our executive committee to come back with a resolution at our next meeting.
Okay. If that's the case, then it would have to be only one read, because I don't really, I mean, we could call a meeting during finals week. My sense is that we don't want to, but if the resolution needs 2 reads, that's what it would mean. I'm not opposed to it, just letting you know. Susan.
I just wanted to bring up, I like the wording of the proposal you put together today. We should not, rather than we may not, or whatever the level of as a recommendation rather than a mandate. I also wanted to further what Tallene had mentioned here, rather than just the start of the course. Our courses fill up, and even if it's before the start of the class, but the other sections are full, it needs to be as early as possible. So as reasonably possible.
Okay. Does somebody want to move that the executive committee writes a resolution? You don't have to, we'll do it anyway. All right.
I make that motion.
Donna Nordstrom, all right. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
All right. Seconded by Veronica. There is a no. I don't know when the no showed up. Is anybody opposed to approving the motion on the floor by unanimous consent? Okay, Eduardo.
Could you please read the motion?
The motion is that the executive committee write a resolution and present it to the Academic Senate during next week's Academic Senate meeting. All right, so is there any objection to Mark?
In hospitality, we have external entities that validate our certification. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying any camera requirements must be communicated to students prior to the start of course, except for those certifications required by external entities.
The external entity and the students being informed before they enroll are two different things.
They're not, because we will going here forward have always external entities verifying all of our certifications from now on with the pandemic.
But the point there is that students should be able to decide whether they want to take that class or not.
That is true, you're correct.
Yeah, so informing students is different from having external entities have requirements.
Okay.
I think, but now discussion has occurred and can we call those points of clarification? We're going to write a resolution. You're going to like it or you're not when we present it to you next week. All right, Eduardo.
Sorry. So if we pass a resolution, is that binding for our students in our classes, or it's just it'll be just a recommendation if we pass a resolution?
If we pass a resolution, what it would be directing instructors, recommending, excuse me, to instructors whether or not they should require camera usage.
Thank you.
Not directing student behavior at all. Okay. And we're going to call that a point of information, and we're going to approve this motion by unanimous consent. The executive committee will write a resolution. And we are done with this item. We're going to need to go out of order on the agenda. And it's because one of our presenters has a time constraint. So we're going to come to the rest of the unfinished business in just a few minutes here. First, I'm going to call item, I don't know what it's numbered for you folks, but it's the bylaws updates. It's M5B, bylaws updates. And I'm going to call John Hanley, the chair of the bylaws, the Rules and Bylaws Committee.
Okay. Do you want me to share my screen?
Would you please?
Okay. Hello, everyone. So the Bylaws Committee, let me resize this so you can probably see it better. The Bylaws Committee has been meeting and has come up with a couple of changes that we think are beneficial to the bylaws. So I'll just go through these really quick. They're the highlighted things. The first couple of these are just, typographical things. The first significant one here in 3.1A, we're adding that regular faculty, or we're proposing the Academic Senate adopt this. Regular faculty is full-time faculty, excluding those faculty on sabbatical. And reading that by itself makes it sound like the whole point is just to exclude people on sabbatical. But in context, which I'll get to in a bit, it's really just to define whether faculty on sabbatical get to vote or get to serve on committees, and because there was some ambiguity in the previous bylaws. So this, along with some other places, will clarify how faculty on sabbatical are treated for the purposes of bylaws. Typo there. And then some of these bigger changes, we combined 3.2 and 3.3 into one. It seemed kind of confusing that there was two different sections that were essentially about the same people. So that's all you're seeing here, except for we did or are recommending that we increase the office terms to 2-year terms instead of 1-year terms. The thinking here is that serving on the executive board is a big job that requires a fair amount of time just to learn how to do. And it might be better if the officer served for 2 years instead of just 1. And then also that there would be a term limit of 3 consecutive terms or 6 years in any capacity on the executive board, but that you could come back and serve again once you've taken at least a 1-year absence. So the idea there being that we want some turnover. We don't want the same people running the show all the time. And if there's any questions, you can stop me at any time.
Donna has a hand up.
Okay, go ahead.
In the 3.2b, in the, like what, line 56, 57, should it be no more than, like officers shall be limited to serving no more than 3 consecutive terms? Or
thank you.
And then in the next sentence, when you say members who have served, you're talking about the officers, right?
Yes.
Okay, because you.
Let's clarify that and call it officers there instead of members.
I know and that comes up again when you start talking about senators. But I don't know, there might have been a reason why you said members, but.
Nope.
No, okay. Thank you.
Okay. This, and then a typo, just this should be referring to 4.4, not 4.3. Eligibility to serve as a senator. So this is where I said we would expand on this. So we are clarifying 1 member shall be elected in each division for each 15 members of the division, including faculty on sabbatical. So that was another area where there was some confusion before. So if faculty go on sabbatical, they still count as part of the division for the purposes of figuring out how many Senate representatives that division gets. That's what this would clarify. And then this just is adding some clarifying language about the formula used to calculate the reps for these other areas. And then we also added a notion of term limits for the Senate board, no more than 2 consecutive terms or 4 years. And then the same thing, members, and maybe this should say Senate board members. Who have served their maximum 4 years will be eligible to serve as a senator again after a 1-year absence. Again, just the idea that we should get more turnover. The reason it's 4 years for Senate board members and 6 years for the executive board, the bylaws committee felt like there's a bigger pool to draw from for Senate board members. And so there should be more turnover, whereas there are obviously less people willing to become a Senate exec member. And so there should be a little bit longer term limit. And then G was added, faculty on sabbatical are not eligible to serve on the Senate board. Bylaws committee's thinking there was, if you're on sabbatical, your focus should be on your sabbatical work, not on shared governance.
Lindsay has a hand up.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm so sorry for that. For F, where it says senators shall be limited to serving no more than 2. Is that's for senators, not the board?
Right, Senate. That should be Senate board members.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was confusing. Is there a limit for senators as well?
Well, senators is my understanding is that's all faculty. The
voting.
Board members
Yeah.
are those of you who serve.
Got it.
Senators and Senate board are synonymous.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you.
All faculty are the academic senate. Y'all are the academic senate board. Me and my 3 colleagues are the executive committee or officers.
Okay. Just added a pointer here, so this definition was clear. Scroll down here. Where the bylaws end Senate rules, there's been a number of, there are sort of rules that have developed over time in terms of how the Senate conducts themselves that are not quite clearly defined in Robert's rules. But they weren't just made up anywhere. They are codified, and those are now posted to the Academic Senate's website. And so we want to make it clear that that's part of the rules that govern the Academic Senate. Committees, we also added a statement similar to not being able to serve on the Senate, but faculty on sabbatical should not be able to serve on committees, again, because they're focused on their sabbatical work. We removed calendar committee. My understanding is this is a college council standing committee, not an academic senate standing committee.
That's correct.
So, and then we modified the requirement for being a committee chairperson to include third and fourth year tenure track regular faculty members. So it's basically the same requirement we use for academic senate board members. And then this statement about committee chairperson may be selected by the respective committees or appointed by the academic senate board from recommendations presented by the Senate. So that clarifies the language that was there before. Different committees have different ways of doing that. And then regarding who gets to vote. So Article 9, in terms of how we elect, we clarified all regular faculty and those on sabbatical shall be eligible to vote in academic senate elections. So because we've defined regular faculty as excluding those on sabbatical, we now want to make it clear that those on sabbatical do get to vote. The thinking there being, even if you're on sabbatical, you won't be when the people you vote for are actually doing their work. And so we've added that clarification. And then we've also just added a stipulation here saying that the Nominations and Elections Committee may opt to conduct the voting process electronically using a secure platform. So this was never not allowed, but there was some confusion or concern in the past that it wasn't known. So we just wanted to make sure it's the 21st century. We should go along with the 21st century and start at least allowing our voting to be electronic. And I believe that's what they're going to try to do next year. And I think that is the last change that we recommend at this time. Any other questions or concerns?
I have a question based on something that you just said. Was there anything that precludes an electronic voting process for the Senate board? Because is that a different section from the amendments?
With the Senate board, you mean all the senators at large, not the executive committee, right?
Never mind, I see it. It's 335. Okay, I take it back. Does anybody have any questions, comments, opinions, advice, anything?
I have a couple of questions.
Gina.
I don't think we discussed this. I'm getting some questions texted to me. Is this something that is going forward, or are we from today forward, or are we including the executive team now? That's one question. And the other question is, if someone rotates their position, is it 6 years in a specific position or 6 years on the executive committee altogether?
So the way we worded it was 6 years in any capacity. This is just the bylaws committee's proposal. So obviously the academic senate board is free to change the wording here, but the way it's currently worded, it would be in any capacity. So 2 years as secretary, 2 years as treasurer, and 2 years as president, and then you've got to take a 1 year break.
Okay, and is this going forward from today? Or are we?
No, we actually have a timing issue. This is going to be presented. This isn't even, technically, this isn't even the proposal to the Academic Senate Board. This is being, it's like I don't know what to call it, John.
I mean, this is just a first read. So the proposal, according to the reading of the bylaws, is the Senate board creates the proposal. This is the bylaws, a recommendation for the proposal that the Senate board could make, but the Senate board hasn't made that proposal yet.
And that proposal can't happen until spring because of timing issues that are spelled out in the bylaws. Like within 1 week of the proposal, the academic senate president sends it out to the faculty. Within four to 6 weeks, a vote has to occur. Those should be during a semester. So this is the first read. So the Senate won't approve this to go out to the faculty until spring. Valerie.
Yeah, hi. tell me if I am off topic, but I just have a general question or inquiry. I remember talking to some other academic senate presidents, like at plenary, and like Mount SAC, for instance, has a constitution in addition to bylaws. And I think that the distinction is that the constitution is the more permanent piece that gets voted on by the entire faculty or quote academic senate, and that the bylaws are more flexible and kind of pertain to the workings of the Senate board. And those can be easily amended by the Senate board. And I know this has just always been on my mind because the whole process of revising our bylaws and then getting like full faculty approval is so laborious and so long. I just would make a recommendation to the bylaws committee that they look into that. Because if we could as a body just amend our bylaws yearly or every other year, it would certainly be easier than what the current process is.
Okay, I will definitely take that suggestion back to the bylaws committee.
That could be, I think that would be incorporated into the bylaws, right? Because it would change a lot of the voting language in the bylaws.
Right, so the bylaws would become, somewhat shorter, but then there would be an additional constitution.
Yeah. So we're going to call that a recommended incorporation when this proposal is actually presented. Does anybody else have anything? Okay, then we're going to let time has run out on this, and I know time has run out for John as well. So we're going to see these again, and maybe the bylaws committee can look into the idea of creating a constitution that will exist side by side with the bylaws. Okay, thank you very much. We are going to move on with the originally scheduled agenda item, and that is AP 7210, academic employees. And in the packet that I gave you, the current AP as it stands, but I also included, because unbeknownst to me, I knew that the deans were going to look at it. Here's the deal. The day after our Senate meeting, I received what the deans had worked on via email. And they worked the whole thing, the whole AP. But what we were looking at in particular was the section that deals with the diversity of hiring committees, which is what you're looking at here. We had been talking about this wording here. At least one of the voting members shall be from a historically underrepresented group. And at this point, I need to say that there is a motion on the floor from the last meeting. And I won't put it up on the screen because the motion on the floor was to change this word here, at least one, to at least three. That's the motion that had been on the floor. And so the conversation needs to pick up with that motion on the floor. The motion has been moved and seconded to change this from at least one to at least three. As you can see, the deans had a recommended change in wording here. The committee shall include at least 2 members from diverse backgrounds, including but not limited to 1 faculty member from an underrepresented race, because remember, women count as underrepresented according to PCC's Human Resources. The Vice President of Human Resources may reject the composition of the hiring committee for lack of inclusion or diversity. And if there are not enough disciplined faculty members to form a hiring committee, they can include more than 1 from outside the discipline division or program. I wanted to give this to you because I think it affects the conversation of the motion on the floor. Having said that, as we've said, there is a motion on the floor, and the motion is to change the wording from at least 1 to at least 3. Does anybody want to speak to the motion?
May I speak to the motion?
You don't have to. We can just have the vote. It is up to you. Your hand is up though. You go right ahead.
Yes, I'd just like to urge our senators to vote in favor of this motion. In order for us to increase the ethnic diversity of hiring committees, I think it's important that we make this change. It's not the only change that's needed. After the motion is voted on, I'm sure we can continue the discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Brian?
I don't think this is a point of clarification, but in regards to Senator Constantine's comments, which motion are we talking about? The amended one that the deans mentioned, or the original?
No,
the original?
We only have one motion on the floor, and it is the original motion.
Okay. So then is the option then to vote on that and then consider what the deans mentioned?
Yes.
Maybe it is a point of clarification. Thank you.
Yes. Dr. Bernardo.
Hi, I just wanted to support Professor Constantine's recommendation that we vote yes on this to include at least 3 members from diverse backgrounds, just because there are admittedly more problems with diversity and hiring and representation, but a lot of that will have to refocus on figuring out the kind of overhauling the entire process of that, and that would necessarily take a long time. However, this is something that we can do that can go into effect pretty quickly and can increase representation pretty much right away, so that while the process is being worked out, at least there is something that is being done to represent those who are underrepresented.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call on, I'm going to invite Dr. Bolin to weigh in, because at CAPM last week, I brought this issue up and she had some insightful thoughts as well. So if there are no objections, we're going to hear from a member not of this body, but I think that this is exactly in her wheelhouse. So Dr. Bolin.
Thanks. I appreciate the invitation. Yeah, I'm very encouraged that this was actually something that was being discussed. I think obviously representation matters. I think some of the challenge is kind of thinking about sort of the sort of visible and oftentimes invisible sort of labor of our, our BIPOC faculty. And also keeping in mind that there's particular disciplines that sort of lack that representation. What does it look like for us to kind of indulge in, thinking through training for all hiring managers around best practices for hiring diverse faculty, and creating, as well as placing some resources and support towards the hiring and retention efforts of our faculty, or diverse faculty, or what have you, and kind of thinking through that piece, at the same time kind of creating some ambassadors that can engage in the hiring process at each stage towards promoting diversity and equity. Again, realizing sort of the gap as it relates to representation in particular disciplines, and wanting to take some of that sort of labor intensive work that kind of stretches some of our faculty of color. So that was one thing that I kind of posed to Matt within that space for discussion or something for consideration for the near future.
Thank you for sharing that with us. We have other hands up. Veronica, did you put? Okay, there you are.
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to speak on the other point. I think the dean's compromise of 2 is more reasonable. I think it's concerning to me if we're having a 5-member voting committee and 3 of the members could potentially not be, the majority of the membership could be not from a discipline in which you are hiring for. I really do respect discipline experts. We've gone to school for a long time to be discipline experts. So I'm not exclusive to having more people on the committee, but I do think the majority should be from a discipline.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Susan.
Yeah, I like the wording that has been proposed by the dean. So I just wanted clarification on how I would proceed if that's the case. I would have to.
I don't want to indulge that just now because the motion on the floor is to change the at least one to at least three. I mean, that's the motion.
I understand, Matt.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to figure out how to proceed in terms of voting because I'm concerned that this may propose or may put forward some confusion to folks. If this wording looks good to folks, then that would require voting against what's on the floor right now. The other question I have, and it's bringing these proposals together, we're making a recommendation, the deans are making a recommendation, and I'm trying to see how this merges together in the end.
It becomes a negotiation. If we end up with something that is at odds with what the deans come up with, then it becomes a negotiation.
Okay, thank you.
That's the collegial consultative process. Okay, and thank you for pointing out that there may have been some confusion based on what I was displaying on the screen. I don't think that's what you said, but that's what I processed. And so this is the motion on the floor. Just to be clear, Armia and then Terry.
Hello. I hear what people are saying, but I just wanted to speak from someone who was not in a particular discipline and was asked to be on a hiring committee. I'm not a part of biology, but I was asked to be on a biology hiring committee, and I happen to be Black. I would just say that although it's good to, sorry, I'm out of breath, ran to the phone. Although, you would think that people come with diverse thinking and everybody could vote a certain kind of way. It is important to keep in mind that committees should be diverse and it should be an intentional effort. Even if there's someone that is not in your, because the discipline that I was a part of, their hiring committee, they did not have a lot of Black people. And so I don't know if they intentionally wanted a Black person, but I was asked to be on the committee, and it was very helpful in choosing a candidate. So that's just my 2 cents. I don't think you have to be a part of a discipline to be in that area of on a hiring committee.
Thank you.
Matt, may I add something?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Just to add to that, I might say that when we're thinking about our staff and or even faculty, that's not included in a particular discipline, they're often, folks that are on the front lines for recognizing and addressing diversity matters. They lead classrooms, they facilitate programs, they mentor on a daily basis, they engage with a number of people from various backgrounds at any given time. So I would say sort of their input could be critical to a process. Again, kind of keeping in mind too, sort of that gap that might be within those hiring committees and within particular disciplines.
Thank you. Terry.
So I'm going to vote against 3 because I feel 2 might be better, but I'm also going to vote for expertise versus having to fill the committee out of an obligation for diversity. I am in favor of adding to the committee to achieve diversity up to 3. The 3 would be great, but I want to make sure I keep the integrity of expertise on the hiring committee. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to vote no.
Okay. Are there any other comments?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I'm actually on the flip side of that, Terry. I think that being a content expert doesn't negate the fact that we need diversity on these committees, and that it also doesn't remove racial bias. If you already are in a discipline that doesn't have a lot of diversity, I'm not as comfortable with that committee, those content experts, picking someone that will promote what our mission says in the college about equity and diversity. And that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Anthony.
Yeah, I would say, we let the university do its hiring without a mandate. And the university has filled itself with predominantly white folks. So now there's a lack of by POC. I think the only way that we can achieve equity as part of this process is if there is a direct mandate that allows for multiple folks that represent a variety of racialized or ethnicized experiences to now be able to serve on these committees. So I think it's a mandatory essence that we pass this. Thank you.
Thank you. Armia, and then Lindsay. Oh, wait, Dr. Stevens' hand was up and then went down.
Should I go or
Yes.
Dr. Stevens?
Go ahead, Amir. I'll go after you, or after Lindsay. I'll go after Lindsay.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Mine is really quick. Just to reiterate what Dr. Lopez was saying, in the Vision for Success, it clearly states on page 16 that we have to do things to help close these gaps. And one of the major opportunities we have is to include a diverse hiring committee to help diversify our faculty. Like Dr. Lopez was saying, if a particular discipline is not diverse, we can't necessarily hope that that discipline will not perpetuate those standards. Although, we can't assume that they won't, but we need to, help ensure that area will be more diversified by perhaps creating a resolution stating that all committees should be made up of a diverse group of people. That way we can ensure that these practices would be more inclusive.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Stevens can go before me.
Okay, Dr. Stevens.
Okay, thank you. I guess my point is just that it's very challenging to be one minority, one woman, one of anything in any environment typically. And so for a hiring committee, I think for too long, it's been the solution of, well, we got one person there to speak, right, for everything. So having one is to me, is just not enough, especially when you're coming from outside and you're working with a group of people who already work together, already have a vibe, and already want a certain goal to be obtained. So that, I guess that's just my point of view.
Okay, we're out of time on this. So does somebody want to make a motion to extend?
Motion to extend.
By how much?
I'm sorry, 5 minutes.
Okay, the motion has been made by Dr. Bernardo to extend by 5 minutes. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Dr. Stevens, okay. Yes. Does anybody object to, so motion made by Dr. Bernardo, seconded by Dr. Stevens to extend by 5 minutes. Does anybody object to unanimous consent on that extension? All right, that motion carries. We are extended by 5 minutes. Go ahead, Lindsay.
I'd just like to add my support to the numbers. I think if we don't have, if we're in a hiring committee that has small numbers because of, and I mean small numbers of maybe we don't have any people of color on the committee, then we need to expand it because and I apologize, I don't remember who said it, but we have to push. It has to be an effort. And if we don't ask ourselves constantly and change our environment, then we won't be changing anything. And so I don't think it's bad to request 3. And if we need to make it bigger, then we make it bigger. But, that's what we're being told. Our colleagues are telling us, our numbers are telling us we don't have enough representation. And so this is one actionable thing we can do. I say we do it. Thank you.
All right. Any other, Dr. Bernardo?
Hi, sorry. I just wanted to make a statement, and I'm not trying to be confrontational here, but sort of pitting statements like integrity of expertise versus diversity of groups seems to be counterproductive. And so if we're all trying to work towards something and especially if the underrepresented groups here are saying that, at least some of us have said that this is what we think that we need, I think that it is counterproductive if people are contradicting that and then going back toward, well, expertise matters. But these are different things.
Thank you. So we are really supposed to limit folks to 2 comments per motion. And we have extended already. We're kind of pushing the limits on this. I will go ahead and hear from Armia and then Susan, but keep in mind if you have spoken twice, then that is what you are entitled to. But go ahead, Armia.
Just super quick, just a reminder, it's not just limited, I respect the comment, but it's not just limited to the people in this committee. It is in our vision for success. It is a community college-wide mandate that's going around, and that we're not just asking at PCC, the 5 or 6 of us. It is written in plain language. Again, Vision for Success, page 16, check it out when you get a chance. But this is something that is needed. And that's all. Sorry, I exceeded my time.
Thank you. No apology necessary, Armia. Susan.
I just wanted to bring up, I realize we're voting on this statement that ends with historically underrepresented. What I like about the alternative is that it addresses currently underrepresented. And my concern is by approving what we've got in front of us right now, I think that what's been put together by the deans allows us to push a little bit further on that to include race, not just historically underrepresented.
Thank you. At this point, I think it's time for us to go ahead and vote. We've heard from folks on both sides, and we, like I said, we did extend. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and vote on the original motion, which is to change the at least 1 to at least 3. That's the motion that was moved and seconded during the last meeting. And so are you ready, Dr. Lopez?
I am.
Okay, do your thing.
Okay, so just to be clear, a yay vote is to increase it to 3. A nay vote is not to.
And to be doubly clear, it becomes a negotiation if this puts us at odds with the administration. I just want to make everybody know that this is not necessarily what would be approved ultimately. It could be, but I want to make everyone aware of that.
Okay. Alan?
Abstain.
Bauer?
Abstain.
Kaido? Castro?
Yes.
Chafee? Constantine?
Yes.
Indoor?
Yes.
Feebig?
Abstain.
Foster?
Yes.
Francoso?
Absolutely, yes.
Garson?
Yay.
Jaramillo?
No.
Jerome?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Leon? Leon? Lopez? Yes. Luck?
Yes.
Milneric?
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Aye.
Thank you. Nordstrom?
No.
O'Leary? Pierce?
Yes.
Rigon?
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Abstain.
Rose,
Yes.
Ruiz,
Yes.
Seropian,
Big yes.
Simon.
Yes.
Now that's a big yes.
Sorry. Stevens,
Yes.
Stoddard,
No.
Swaminathan,
Yes.
Vendresco,
No.
Vento,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Wilbur,
Abstain.
Winter.
Abstain.
Are there any
Yes.
alternates here?
Jeff Baja.
Baja,
Yes.
oh, I'm sorry, Keen.
Yes, aye.
Okay. We have 1, 2, 3.
Valerie, is your hand up intentionally? And Mark, you have your hands up?
I just had a comment after Gina's done tallying the votes, if I can make one.
Okay. Wanted to make sure timing was going to be okay.
Okay, we have 21 ayes, 6 nays, and 6 abstentions.
Okay, that motion carries. There are hands up. So Valerie?
Yeah, I was just wondering if we were going to be given the opportunity to look more comprehensively at the AP, because the discussion in our division was there's lots of other things that could be changed. One of the best suggestions was to include students in an authentic way in the process, you know, which I think is a really great idea. And
we absolutely will be looking at the entire AP.
And then I also had a comment about the Dean's version. I was under the understanding that race is an archaic term, at least biologically, that has no meaning. And I know that like in social science circles, it doesn't as well. And I was wondering if, you know, you could just mention that they changed that to BIPOC or.
Your point's taken. Thank you. All right, then we will look more comprehensively at this AP during spring. I mean, it's not going to happen next week. And at this point, we're going to move on to BP 3050, which is, I expect, a much quicker and shorter thing. And then we'll move on to a bunch of other stuff. I've got to find there it is. We had talked about that BP 3050 is just up for, it hasn't been revised in quite a while, 12 years. And so the executive committee recommended a change just to the end of this sentence here. And you were to go back, think about it, and then come up with any other recommended changes to this BP. Before we get started, can we have a motion to approve BP 3050?
I move to approve BP 3050.
Thank you, Sheila. Is there a second to the motion? Valerie's hand is up. I'm going to take that as, is your hand up again or still?
Sure, I'll second it.
All right. I don't think that answered my question, but it did. Or it did. Okay. So moved and seconded to approve BP 3050. Is there any discussion? Valerie? Oh, wait, your hand. I don't know what's going on. It tells me your hand was up and then it wasn't. Any discussion? Terry?
So I know this is just maybe a matter of semantics, but I don't think this sentence is necessary. I think regardless of why a person is offered due process does not need to be determined nor limited to this statement. And I do feel that the previous AP 3050 was fine the way it was. So I'm going to vote against this.
BP 3050, right?
I do that often. That's why I pay you the big bucks. I apologize.
There you go. It's okay. I just want to make sure everyone is on the same page here. Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Then we have a vote. I do know at least one person's going to vote no on this. So I will ask, as I have been doing, are there any objections to approving this by unanimous consent?
Yes, I object.
No problem. Then this is a roll call vote. And Gina, you are on yet again.
Thank you. Alan?
Yes.
Can you please restate the motion?
The motion is to approve the document you're looking at on the screen.
Okay. We're looking, okay.
To approve the change to BP 3050, to amend the last sentence to include the words to determine whether an ethics violation occurred. And that sentence is faculty accused of violating the professional ethics of faculty policy and or procedures shall be afforded appropriate due process. The motion is to add to determine whether an ethics violation occurred.
Are we ready to proceed?
Looks like it.
Alan?
Yes.
Baja?
Yes.
Bernardo?
Abstain.
Bauer?
Yes.
Cairo? Castro?
Yes.
Bevel, Constantine, excuse me.
Yes.
Indoor?
Yes.
Feebig?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Francoso?
Yes.
Garson?
Yes.
Jaramillo?
Yes.
Jerome?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Leon? Lopez? Abstain. Luck?
Yes.
Milnaric? Milnaric? Nordstrom?
Yes.
Keen?
Yes.
O'Leary? Pierce? Pierce?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Rigon?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Ruiz?
Yes.
Seropian?
Yes.
Simon?
Yes.
Stevens?
Abstain.
Stoddard?
No.
Swaminathan?
Yes.
Vendresco?
Yes.
Vento?
Yes.
Walker? Walker?
Yes. Yes.
Wilbur?
Yes.
Winter?
Yes.
with 1 no and 3 abstentions. The yeas have it.
All right, the motion carries. Then we will move on to the next stuff. Let me just share. I'll let you know where we are with the agenda. This is what we have left. Items 5, A, B, C, and D are for a first read. Item F is the late addition. Wait a minute. That's not where we were. I take it back. We are now at nominations and elections committee updates. My apologies for that. I thought we were ahead of where we were. So, Jared Ashcroft, are you here?
Yep. Hey, how is everybody?
Cool. I'm going to stop sharing so you can do so.
All right, awesome. Let me get the... All right, hope everyone is having a wonderful night. So we've been meeting for the Elections and Nominations Committee and just come at some of the items that are happening. We are looking at doing an online election using Election Buddy. That's the same platform that the Faculty Association used. So, we're going to try and do that for this upcoming election. Another item is that we are looking at using a Google Doc or Google Forms in order to get candidate statements out to the faculty and to have people be able to nominate people for the Academic Senate Board. Just because, since we're all online, trying to come up with a way to disseminate all the information to the entire faculty has been a kind of a big item of how we're going to be doing it. And we've decided to try a Google Doc or Google Form because we think that that's what faculty will be most used to instead of doing a Canvas module. I wanted to go over really quickly just the calendar for our next year's elections. On February 22nd, I'll come to the Academic Senate Board meeting and just do an information presentation, kind of give out handouts, stuff like that. We're going to distribute the nomination form on March 1st. Nominations deadline will be Monday, March 8th by noon, and then we'll verify and validate nominations. We'll come to the Academic Senate Board on March 8th. And then at that point, we'll take any nominations from the floor. I'm guessing that'll probably be virtual, so we'll do virtual nominations. Platform statement deadlines will be on March 10th. And again, we're going to have the nominees send those platform statements to me. We will get a Google Doc form. The committee will work on kind of a Google Docs, put all of them in there, and then we'll share out to the entire faculty through an email for anyone that can get elections. And so we are going to be talking to Candace Jones and figuring out how do we send out that bulk email for that information. We'll distribute the platform statements. We're going to have electronic voting begin using Election Buddy. Again, the Election Buddy, we're going to send that directly to people's email. We're not going to be using a Google form or anything. We're going to have some mechanism that we can send all of the electron voting information to you on Monday, March 15th. You'll have 2 weeks to vote. Then we'll announce the results around March 31st, and then the Senate present it to the Academic Senate Board on April 5th. And for the new Academic Senate Board, the ASCCC Spring Plenary has already been virtual. They've already decided it'll be a virtual event, April 15th to 17th, 2021. So that is what our schedule looks like, kind of how we're going to plan to run the elections. Does anyone have any questions?
Looks like Donna Nordstrom has a hand up.
So just to clarify, this is for the elections for the executive.
For the executive team, yes. Yeah, sorry, the executive.
So because in the bylaws, every time it said an Academic Senate Board, it was referring to like us, like me.
You're the board. This is the nominations calendar for the executive committee of the Academic Board.
So
this is for the president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer.
And treasurer, yeah.
Just so everybody knows.
Okay, but I mean, does that ever say that on here? That's what I'm saying.
I will put it. It was never on there before, but I will add it in there.
Thank you.
Board.
It's executive committee. There you go.
All right, there we go.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve this calendar? So I think we're supposed to approve it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
I move to approve the calendar.
All right, moved by Ken Simon. Is there a second? Was that Donna?
Yes.
Oh, cool. I'm pretty good at this sometimes. And that means I'm going to mess up in just a minute. So moved by Ken Simon, seconded by Donna Nordstrom to approve this calendar. Are there any further comments or questions? Then if there are no objections, we will approve this by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to so doing? And this is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you so much, Professor Ashcroft.
Cool, thank you.
And thank you for waiting for, you can do that. All right, speaking of waiting, I'm gonna have to make everybody wait just a little longer because there were calls for orders of the day. It came through the chat, but somebody said, hey, you're going out of order. And here it is. I somehow overlooked, I'm glad it was on the slide, honorary rank advancements. Folks, some folks are moving up, man. We have folks who are becoming assistant professors, some associate professors, and some professor emeritus. I believe this represents 40 individuals up here. And then we have, it looks like 7 of these down here as adjunct assistant professor. This is a recommendation from the Rank Advancement Committee. Can we have a motion to approve these rank advancements?
Motion to approve.
Okay, the child does not get to move anything. There's somebody in my screen. It's a child who's waving, so he's going to make a motion. I got distracted by the child. Did I hear Sheila move?
I can second.
Okay, you can second. Who did I hear move?
Holly.
Tallene, thank you. So see, look at that. I screwed it up. So Tallene moved, Sheila seconded. Is there any discussion about these rank advancements? All right, then if there are no objections, we will approve them by unanimous consent. Just waiting a beat. They are approved by unanimous consent. Congratulations to everybody on this list.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're well. I mean, Lindsay, I see that you're here. Is anybody else here? Jennifer Feebig, cool. Veronica, congratulations. And a bunch of people who aren't here. All right, but absolutely deserving. Then, now it's time to get back in order. And we are looking at, and Charlene, you've been waiting here for an hour. Thank you for being here and for your time. There is a sabbatical leave committee. They have adjusted their procedures. Charlene is here to tell us about it.
Hi, everybody. Your meetings are going really long these days. Is that normal?
No.
Just my lucky day, right?
End of the term. Yeah, it's your lucky day.
Okay, so we updated what we used to call an administrative procedure, which was very confusing. So we're going to rename it committee procedures. And it's just to update the language of the sabbatical leave process because the contract was updated with new language. So we figured we should just update this as well. So the changes are, you know what? Since I sent this to you, Matt, can you go back up to the top?
Yep.
We also had to change, actually, I didn't have the new section numbers of the new sabbatical procedures. So it's 6.1, I think, in the new contract. So that has been changed as well.
I will make that change.
Okay, perfect. And then it's going to happen again a little bit further down, but just it's the basic language that's changing. You can see the highlighted areas. In number 4 under the applicants, what they're required to do, it used to say submit 6 copies to HR. And because of COVID, and just because I think it's really silly to send 6 copies of anything anywhere these days. So it just says electronically submit the completed application to the Office of Human Resources before the deadline. The advisory committee, it's, you know, we're always putting the cart before the horse or whatever the expression is. We've been working with a member from the Faculty Association for well, anyway, before these changes happened. So I guess maybe it was an MOU or something, I'm not sure. So the sabbatical committee is composed of 2 members selected by the Academic Senate Board, and the new one is, used to say 3. The new one is having 1 member selected by the Faculty Association. And then just new terminology for the Dean of Human Resources. We no longer have that position. We have a Vice President of Human Resources. And that change actually hasn't happened yet, because it's not part of the same, it's different. So where it says psychology is still psychology, hasn't been changed to pedagogy, but we will eventually get to that change. The committee will meet in spring to approve other language changes in the evaluation. And then just above that, Matt, see what it says, the criteria from sections, that'll be, I can send you the new numbers, or you can look it up in the contract, 6.1 point something to, I'm not too sure exactly what it is, but that has also been updated.
Okay, so.
I can send that to you if you want.
Yeah, would you please? So an update because of the section in the collective bargaining agreement, get with the times and not 6 copies. We're not killing trees. We're going to do it electronically. And then, so the Senate here loses 1 member or loses 1 appointment in favor of the Faculty Association. And then the Vice President of Human Resources and the other section numbers.
And then can you go down? Is there anything more? Yeah, no, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, and this is being presented. So this, the one to be selected by the Faculty Association, my understanding is the reason for us to look at this is that the contract has been updated. And so this changes to reflect what is in the contract now, the collective bargaining agreement, right? Okay.
So yeah, no real content changes yet, just language to reflect the updated contract.
Well, I mean, moving from 3 Senate appointed members to 2 Senate appointment members is actually a substantive change, isn't it?
There are 3 faculty members.
True that. So do you need us to approve this, or is this more just like an information thing?
It's information, but when we put it through 2 years ago, we had it approved just for posterity, I guess. So why not?
All right. Is there a motion to approve the changes to the sabbatical committee's procedures? Valerie has a hand raised. I'm going to take that to be the motion. Is there a second?
No. I'm not moving. Do we have to move to discuss? Is that your deal?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Motion second, and then discussion.
I move that we accept the proposal.
All right, so it's been moved by Terry. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Susan Bauer. All right, so the motion on the floor is to, it was to accept the proposal. Valerie.
Yeah, I mean, you just made the point. It seems like a lot of what we do is driven by the contract rather than the contract being driven what the Academic Senate wants. I think, I can't remember what it was, but we voted on something recently that like was, it was the DE, I think. Wasn't there like, when we discussed the DE and the amount of time that they could teach? I mean, that was bargained in a completely different manner than what we had voted on. So I'm just wondering why there isn't more, I guess, like compromise when it comes to our voice versus the FA's voice. And this is just another example of that, right? Like, I agree that it is a substantial change.
To clarify that, the recommendation from the DE committee was to have faculty members be allowed to teach 100% online. This body was opposed to that, so they actually voted that down. And then the collective bargaining agreement ended up being 80%. And so I'm not sure that I would characterize that as being counter, although your greater is.
Okay, I'll take that back. But in this instance, I would speak out against this. I think this is a major change.
So I guess, can I respond to that?
Yeah.
I guess then what you would have to do is you would have to vote no when it comes to contract ratification, because this is contract language. It's been voted and ratified. So I guess it means that it's been accepted.
My question is, does the contract state that the sabbatical leave committee will have an FA representative, or does it say that the FA representative will replace an academic senate appointed representative?
No, because before, actually, I don't know if you remember, Matt, but maybe this is before your time, but actually members of the sabbatical committee were not appointed by the academic senate at all before. So this is relatively new that we have appointments from the academic senate.
I feel like I remember we had 2 appointed before, so this 3 is a surprise.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm going back a little bit further.
Yeah,
but,
no, I get what you're saying there.
Yeah, because it's basically governed by the contract. I think this is an improvement to what it was before. The fact that we have members recommended, by the Senate board and then by the faculty association. Because before it was just whoever wanted to be on the sabbatical committee. So now it's a little more transparent and it's a little more ordered. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why we put this through in the first place, probably 3 years ago, maybe 2018, when Angela
I remember.
Estrada Ceballos was chair of the sabbatical committee.
Right. Okay. We did run out of time at some point. I will allow one more comment here. Valerie?
I just want to say Charlene's point is well taken. I'm just curious about why it is in the contract in the first place when it seems to be a lot about professional development, professional learning, which is the purview of the academic senate. I just don't know what the history of that was. I mean, I think it's probably been in there since I've been hired. So it just might be interesting to research other schools to see if, that is actually kosher to be in the contract in the first place.
Can I speak to that again? We did do a little bit of research, and it varies by college. Some colleges have it in one place, others have it in the other. Ours happens to be in our contract, and I think it's advantageous for us to keep that in our contract, keep it as a contractual right for the benefit of faculty. And
on our campus, EdCode, I think it's EdCode, says that the FA needs to consult with the academic senate on issues relating to evaluations. And we have an AP that says they need to consult with us on issues related to distance education. There is not actually a legal or that I know of or AP mandate that they need to consult with us on sabbatical leave.
Right, they don't.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't. I'm saying that they didn't, to my knowledge, violate anything in including this in their collective bargaining agreement.
Right.
So time is up for this. We can vote on it, or somebody could move to postpone it till next week if you wanted to consider it a bit more. I'm not seeing anything. So the motion is to approve this. And if there are no objections, we'll go ahead and do so by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Then this is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you,
everyone. Can I go now?
You can go now.
Okay, thank you.
And we're on to, we have 8 minutes left, folks. And there are, oh man. And I said that I wouldn't keep you any longer than 6. The deal is here, we have AP 6450, 6521, 6522, and 6523, all being presented by Candace Jones. The 6620 naming of buildings, that's going to be pulled at the request of the presenter, but then there was credit for prior learning, which was added. And the reason was we need that in place by the end of the calendar year. The intent was to have it as a first read now and then bring it back next week as a second read. We're going to do the same thing with the tech APs. You have the floor, Candace.
We're going to do this quick since it's a first read. We have 4 new APs, largely because they don't exist today. So the first is 6450, which is a process around wireless and cellular telephone use and the difference between district phones and allowances that are given to employees on their paychecks for use of after hours usage. And there's some clarity around what that looks like in this AP. The second AP is around network security, which is 6421. That item is really sort of both network security, physical security, and logging and monitor. AP 6522 and 6523 are all sort of procedures to put in place to essentially say that the institution is abiding by normal standard technology practices. We don't have them in place today, but we should. We do all of these items, and so it's just us really putting pen to paper to place some accountability on the Information Technology Services Department.
Okay, so you all received this last Monday or Tuesday, I think it was. And the question that we have for you right now is, does anybody see any glaring issues with these as a first read at this point? So there was an expectation in sending it out that early that you would look at it. So I'm not seeing anything. We apparently don't have any glaring issues. These folks are going to take it back, and then can you come back next week? All right, cool. Thank you for the brevity and for sitting here for 3 hours so you could talk for 2 minutes. Appreciate it. Okay, then we are going to move on to, oh, Estella, you are here. We have, this is here because we need to have this in place before the end of the calendar year. And I need to look for where I have it here. It is AP 4235. I'm going to share this on the screen now. I will tell you, we added this to the agenda, but when we did so, we added 4235 and 4220 to the agenda. And I think what I should do is probably show them side by side. While I am setting it up, Isela, can you please tell me why we're looking at this?
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, everyone. So I just want to offer a little bit of background information. So there were amendments to Title V regulations that became effective in March of 2020 that impact Title V, Section 55050, having to do with community colleges creating policy around credit for prior learning. Credit for prior learning is an important strategy to assist California community colleges in achieving the goals of the Vision for Success. So the regulations affirm consistent and equitable practices that enable students to obtain credit for validated college level skills and knowledge gained outside of a college classroom. This policy reform requires districts and colleges to provide students more consistent and equitable access to prior learning assessments to promote quality, integrity, and equity in the award of credit, and make programs more accessible to millions of students without certificates or degrees. The formal definition of credit for prior learning is college credit awarded for validated college level skills and knowledge gained outside of a college classroom. Students' knowledge and skills might be gained through experiences such as military training, industry training, state and federal government training, apprenticeships, internships, work-based learning, and other industry-based experiential learning, and validated volunteer and civic activities such as the Peace Corps. The definition does not include knowledge and skills already assessed and awarded credit through this formal education at regionally accredited in-state and out-of-state institutions. So the governing board of each community college district needs to adopt and publish policies pertaining to credit for prior learning. And as Matt has mentioned, it needs to be done before the end of our year by December 31st. And so this is why this is being brought to you now. And I don't know if Matt, you want to speak to that section that currently exists in 4220 and what we want to do with that.
Yes, so this is being brought to you because if we were to approve simply AP 4235 by itself, it would then be in conflict with 4220 as it stands now. And so there are some changes that I'm recommending to 4220, and it's to remove all of the references to credit by examination and credit for military credit from military, removing those from 4220 because they're all it's all been included here in 4235. Okay. And so what I need for you, this is being presented here as a first read and then to be hopefully approved next week. And this is the reason that we have to have a meeting next week. Folks, this had been worked on by a couple of different entities and then finally was given to Isela. Her and her team put this together in just a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And I looked at it, I think it's pretty whatever, it doesn't matter what I think. The other changes that I'm recommending to 4220 is to include EW. We're issuing them. We need to have them in an AP. And this is an explanation of EW. And then to remove, did I just delete it? There's an FW. And to remove that because we don't use it at all. So I will send you 4220. For you to look at, but basically the major changes are to strike out what's already what will exist in 4235, which we have to legally have on the books by the end of the year. So again, this is presented to you as a first read. Did anybody have a chance to look? I sent it out on Friday. Did anybody have a chance to look at it and have any concerns? Tell me.
So on the second page of AP 4235, under advanced placement, the very last sentence for the first bullet says the advanced placement examination must have been taken no earlier than the student's junior year of high school. From what I understand, that's arbitrary. The UCs and Cal States don't care if they took it earlier. So I'm not sure why we would not allow students to petition or use AP credit if they took it earlier.
Okay, it looks like she's taking a note on that one.
I am, yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have another one. So I consulted with our articulation officer and she kind of did a little bit of digging also. I'm not sure if this should be part of the AP or if it's part of perhaps the petition that will be created. So I really don't know where it lands. So please correct me where I'm wrong. At this point, some of the new CPL, so I want to look at the language so I don't say it incorrectly. It's the CPL discussion can be a little challenging when thinking about how the UCs or Cal States take it. And so there is an articulation officer, and this was in their chat, that sort of discusses to be a little weary when it has to do with courses that are lower division major requirements for transfer, unless it's like a prerequisite. So for instance, the major prep is Chem 1A, 1B, but then they could bypass Chem 22, for instance. CSU GE approved courses, UC transferable courses, and IGETC approved courses, unless it's the language other than English requirement, which is Area 6. I know that's complicated because it seems like I'm saying no to everything. I'm not, but I just think there needs to be some type of, whether it's in the AP or I'm making the suggestion in the actual petition so that students don't make a decision that can negatively impact them, especially if they're transfer bound.
So how about if we ask Isela to sit down or to have a meeting with Sharice Amarian, who is our articulation officer, just to make sure that we're all okay there?
That would be great. She's aware. I sent her the AP, so she knows what's up.
Okay, so are you willing to do that, Isela?
Absolutely. Thank you, Talene.
Cool. Appreciate it. Mark, you'll be the last comment.
Underneath the advanced placement, the next heading is International Baccalaureate. And the second bullet point says the student achieved a minimum acceptable score, but it's not defined. Is there any way that score can be defined? Isela, that is my question. because it isn't on the above sections and above headings.
Yeah, I don't know what that score is, but I'll check in with our dean, Armando Duran.
All right, thank you. We appreciate it. And then if there are any changes that result from these, if you can just get them to us as soon as you can, then we'll have them to look at for next week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then we're going to call it quits on this agenda item. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your work on this and that you came here to talk about it with us. The last thing, we aren't going to do it now. I'm just going to show it to you. It's not even here. Oh, because it's a different thing. And it is, we have proposed mission and values. I'm sorry, not mission, vision and values statements that were created by the Strategic Planning Committee. And here it is. I just am going to ask you to look at this over the next week because we'll bring it back. If you're not ready to vote on them next week, then I'm not going to cram them down your throats. But I do want you to know that the Strategic Planning Committee, no joke, worked on what you see on this page for like a year plus. It's been a great, I think, evolutionary process. Crystal, if you're still here, do you want to say anything about this slide here?
Sure. I just really think the Strategic Planning Committee was just very engaged in this conversation, and what you see before you has changed multiple times with multiple iterations, with everybody coming back and thinking about it carefully. We looked at vision statements and value statements from across the country, different institutions, and I really have to commend the committee on the work they put into this and the thought and the conversation. And Matt's leadership. Thank you, Matt.
And yours, we're co-chairs. We're a good team, I think. Thank you. So folks, share this with your folks. Let us come back next week and then share anything that results. And unfortunately for y'all, we will be meeting next Monday. We have to, if for no other reason, we have to deal with the credit for prior learning. And it'll be regular 3 to 5. We're not going to go to 6 or anything. Does anybody have any proposed future agenda items? Okay, does anybody have any announcements?
Matt?
Does anybody want to go? I'm just kidding, Bevel.
Yeah, again, I just want to encourage everyone to sign up for the transfer, the Freshman 15 initiative, as much as you can. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. All right, anything further? Okay, with that, we will adjourn. Thank you all for your extra time tonight. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Take care, Mateo.
You too.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You as well.
Same to you.